Thank you. Thank you. It was really great to be here. Yes, I'm going to talk about what we've been doing for the last 2 years in terms of enterprise design at Scania. And just a short introduction to Scania for those of you who are not aware of that company. Scania is one of the companies that we as Swedes are very proud of. It's up among the IKEA, Ericsson, and Volvo, and maybe the new ones with Spotify and the others. But Scania has been around for a very long time. We were founded in 1891. We are a company that is active in 100 countries, and we have 54,000 employees. So a fairly big player. And we are in the transportation business, the heavy transportation business. I'm just running here because these are not so fun, but I want you sort of to get the context into which I'm working. Our purpose is to drive the shift towards a sustainable transportation system, creating a world of mobility that is better for business, society, and the environment. Kind of ties into the speaker before. This is a big ask. This is a big purpose. And I'm going to tell you a bit about how we've been trying to work with these topics a bit more down to everyday work. We're not really there exactly every day, but we're trying to sort of take these large questions and see how we can make them tangible in our everyday life. And just a short, heavy transport. There's a lot of ways of moving things, and we have different sort of offerings in these different areas. I'm not going to go into that. I have 3 colleagues who can tell you way more about these things than I can. I've been an employee since 1.5 years, and I've been in this team working for the last 2 years with what I'm going to present to you. A short sort of scan over the world. We have production sites in Europe, in Latin America, and we're currently building up a site in China. We have a network of production centers, production units, research development all over the world. Maybe not all over the world, but in a lot of parts of the world. And we have like a market presence all over, I'd say. There are some white spots, but we are a big company in various parts of the world, so to say. And I'm going to use these facets when I walk through how we have been doing, what we have been doing, and what we have been thinking of and trying to move towards. So I think Milan introduced them a bit, but there's like the questions around identity and purpose. There are questions around architecture, how we're operating, what are we capable of achieving, and also what is the role that we want to play in people's lives. So these are like different facets that I am going to try to use and sense make how we have moved ourselves from a fairly architect-focused sort of corner of the world into a more balanced, I hope at least, where we see more of the aspects of an enterprise. So, who am I? I am a business architect working in one of the teams in what we now call enablement. We take care of all the systems that our colleagues that design the trucks work in. So it's product management, product information and content systems, you could say, and also the systems that is serving all the consuming processes. So if you're selling a truck, you need to have product information to be able to know what to sell. That is coming from our systems and our processes and our way of working and so on. So it's like, I sometimes think of myself or us as if everything is really great. Nobody knows we exist. But when things are changing, everybody wants us to do a lot of things because they want to have better support for whatever new things they want to sort of go about with. So the starting point is 2 years ago. Actually, kind of in the beginning of October, there's a huge transformation program started because of what's going on in the market. We all know the autonomous electrification, connected and digital things that is going on. And this has been hitting other businesses way earlier than ours. But now it's this huge wave coming over companies like ours. And there has been a lot of thinking of how do we need to act in this new environment. We're just realizing with this new way of looking at the services and what we've been doing, there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of new like business models, ways of thinking, and so on. That will put a huge strain on how we take care of the information around our offerings and how we design our products and our services. Because as I said in the beginning, we're moving from this moving towards thinking of what we're offering as a transportation system rather than as a truck with a lot of fancy stuff around it. And that is a big shift. And we, in our teams, sort of providing support for our colleagues working with this, we need to figure out, okay, what do we need to take care of information-wise and design-wise going forward? And there are these things around the enablement. That is like the new word for process in IT. Sounds a bit more fun, but I don't know. It's a bit more of what needs to be in play for our organization to kind of work. We need to be really sort of working with speed and flexibility since we're moving into unknown areas. We don't really know. We need to have fast feedback loops. And we, of course, need to still develop and deliver solutions. We need to have a way closer connection with customers. We have been in this business for 100 years or even more. We know how you do a combustion engine. We are like perfectionists. Now we do not want those anymore. We want electricity. We want other sort of fuels, other ways of doing these things. So we need to learn. And we need to work really, really close with our customers. And we need to engage a lot of, sort of everybody in the company needs to be part of this idea of how do we reform or how do we find ourselves in this new coming future. And I took back a few thoughts. What did we think 2 years ago? And that is at least how I interpret what we kind of said. I don't think we made it this explicit. But is that this huge transformation is a really good opportunity to rethink and restructure how we operate. And we would really want to take the opportunity to create this better way and better enterprise. And we want to sort of get in there with all our knowledge and experience to see how far this can take us from what we thought that we could offer to our colleagues and our sort of our context in terms of what we had. So that is kind of the starting point. And we had been working with architecture. We had been working with this. Some of you might be familiar with the Milky Way map. This is sort of a capability map with some business geography. I can talk for weeks about this. But anyway, we had this, and we had been working heavily within the architecture perspective of what we did. And I'm putting in some of the patterns from the book for those of you who are interested. I'm not going to mention them, but it's kind of what we've been using. So the importance of making things tangible and nice to look at. But what happened when the purpose changed? We realized that we need to reshift the map. I still remember the day when Fredrik, my colleagues over there, said, I don't think that the old geography is still valid. I think we need to reshift it. So if I make this really easy, this is sort of this map had a step-by-step thinking in it, which really did not fit the way we wanted to work with more feedback loops. So this one, maybe not so beautiful, but the idea of this is that we are moving in circles and coming back to a position of making decisions. So just by looking at this map and how we could sort of depict or describe our enterprise system, we could highlight the changes that we needed to do in terms of moving forward towards this more looping, more searching way of working. And there is actually a version of the new map somewhere on a wall if you want to look closer to it. So that was kind of our contribution of how can we from architecture depict and make sense, make more of what's going on and what's important. And this sort of transformation went on. We formed teams, we did a lot of sort of the PI planning. I guess a lot of you guys have done that. We were part of the architecture vision, so we were allowed to sort of define and work with what we saw as the most important parts from an architecture point of view throughout these 2 years. But at a certain time, there was a shift going on. Scania goes to China. We have read the articles, but somewhere in the beginning of 2021, there was a knock on our door and I said, okay, guys, we're going to go to China. We're going to have to move our systems over there. And how do we deal with that? How do we set up a third industrial hub in China? And that was, okay, how do we do that? And we kind of really fast said that we cannot ask people, how do you want to do it? How do you want to do it? Because nobody really knew how to do it. So we decided, okay, let's really fast come up with a scenario or a wanted state describing how we want to do things. So we sort of moved ourselves into what would a good place be like if we were to aim for China. So we set up an ambition and a hypothesis, still very much architecture. If you look, there are a lot of information structures and some systems and stuff. But yet, we tried to sort of take this leap forward and then go backwards, kind of. And we used the Milky Way to ask a lot of questions. Okay, how are we going to do that? And that we were able to walk around in this map and highlighting areas that ought to be a bit more sort of clear and so on. And we even got to zoom in a bit into some more details. We found some users. We found some people that actually were doing things. And we tried to sort of understand how that could be done. And I think that we came up with some hypotheses and some good things that we could take further. So you can say that we kind of, with a lot of architecture, there was some purpose and there was a few things around what the role we want to play in people's lives kind of thing. But what happened here is that we were still in this transformation, and it was really not that much of this that our change environment, our colleagues with our teams and so on could take on. So this approach went into a more traditional project-driven thing, and it's still ongoing. But we learned a lot by just being brave enough to take this sort of approach to these really complex and large questions. And while this happened, our transformation was ongoing. And our colleagues were moving into sort of new areas with this operating model. Some of you might know what this is. It's a value stream landscape. And we have now moved ourselves into being this. We shifted names. Now we're called Central Enablement. We're the one that makes it possible for our colleagues developing and designing our products to do that in a very good way. And we did a lot of soul searching here as well, because this was kind of a new body. It was the same people, but with a bit of another sort of responsibility and task, so to say. So we moved ourselves into really looking at, okay, what do we need to be able to do in this new world? Now you can see the main thing is, of course, to support the value flow of how we design and create value. But we also realize that there is another flow going in the other direction. It's a learning flow. It's how can we be better and better in understanding what is really important for our customers and our users. So this dual flow is kind of a way of trying to figure out what we need to be able to do and what's our task in this landscape. We also came down with three different main value propositions. So we offer a continuous development environment for all our colleagues. We offer the opportunity to continuously integrate, so you can test. Remember, we want the fast feedback loops. We need to be able to test often. And then we need to have good ways of making what the solution development guys have been sort of developing to the rest of the organization, so we can sell, produce, purchase, and service all the solutions that we are working with. And we also sort of structured a way, I mean, this is like scaled agile kind of thing. And if you just look at it, you cannot really say, what's the value of this? But we put a lot of effort into making this ours, taking the good patterns that we had from various frameworks, and then moving that into what we want to have in our organization. So in the bottom layer here, that's where we have the brains and the muscles of our organization. That's where all the development and all the learning kind of is ongoing. And then you have the portfolio level in the middle. And it's not like there are different people here. It's different questions being addressed. So it's not a hierarchy of people. It's a hierarchy of questions, maybe, we can say. And one of the values that we really wanted to get in here is our ability to take on unknown things, like mystery. How can we be better prepared when the next China question comes? So this was sort of ongoing at the time, and it really helped us to sort of work with the change, making this more tangible, because there were a lot of people not really knowing, what is this? Why can't we keep on doing what we've been doing all along? What's wrong with projects? And, you might have had those type of discussions as well in your organization. We also worked with the Milky Way again to sense make what is it, what are the most important flows, sense making the most important things that we need to be able to do. I'm not expecting you to sort of get this, but we came back to the map again, but this is an aggregated version of the map. So here we are. We're thinking, things are, well, there is a lot of work to do, but still, maybe we're getting our heads around it. But then we got a new CEO, Christian Levin, in May. Nothing really changed for us at the time. But then Triton, our owner, also got a new CEO. Happened to be the same guy. So now we're thinking, okay, what's happening here? Well, what's behind the curtain, so to say, is that, of course, with all these investments being made, being needed to be able to come up with solutions for tomorrow, we need to pool resources within this group. So there is Scania, and then there's a German truck company called Emine. There's an American company called Navistar, and then there is a Brazilian one called Volkswagen Caminhone Omnibus. So now the idea is what would a potential future look like if we joined forces and developed together? And that was a knock on our door, I think, in the beginning of December last year. Could you sketch a bit about what could this be? I mean, what do we need to understand? What do we need to be able to do in order for us to support this? And we did some sketching. This is me at my breakfast table. I seem to do a lot Saturday mornings. I don't know. I wake early. And there were some things here. Fairly on, we realized that if you want to do this joint thing, there's a huge shift in power here and shift in pride. I mean, all these companies have engineering departments that have been working for a very long time designing their things. And suddenly we're going to move them in together. What is the dynamics going on here? Here's also when I more deliberately was thinking, we should have this sort of enterprise design thinking. What if we were to take this a bit more holistic? And it's also some things about stepwise. There are some points in time that you can move this system towards, which is also sort of an important thing. So I had sort of a personal vision. We did some powerful questions, and we also looked for moments in time when we needed to have things in order. We also did a lot of sketching. What is this? How can we understand this? What do we want to do? Why do we want to do that? How is the dynamics going to be between the different? How do we create enthusiasm for all of us? I mean, there is different roles to play here. But somewhere along the line, we sort of came back to, okay, we have a good map. Let's see if we can use this architecture map, this Milky Way, and then we zoom it up and make it generic enough so that it could fit the others as well. And after some sort of discussion and some talking, we came to the conclusion that, we can have this as like a blueprint or a template for companies like ours, like the four of ours. But we are different. We do things differently within the capabilities. So we decided to come up with like an ecosystem of these organizations. It's like a game board, almost. So we said that we have the brands, you see the Scania, Emine, Navistar, and Volkswagen Caminhone, and then you have the new capability in the middle, and then Triton. Okay, how do we make this work? Well, we had the idea of stories. It was kind of in the China case, but we didn't take it that deliberate. So we decided to work with stories for each of the players in this scenario. So we would say, okay, Triton, what's your position in this new environment? What we expect you to do, or you're expected to act like this. And then we had some current state and some major gap thinking. And that was something that we worked with in demos and so on. But in real life, it was not really them that wrote the stories. I was the one writing the stories. So it's more of, we did not capture stories. We used stories to sense make what this was. And after a while, it got a bit clearer what we wanted. We could sort of talk about it as a thing going forward. And we sort of could, to some extent at least, make it tangible. What is it that we want to achieve going forward and so on? And also this depicts shared understanding. The thing now is that, okay, so a decision was made, we want to do this. And now we need to move into what actually do we need to change in order for this to happen. So now we're moving into our part of this world, the joint enablement. And we said, okay, we have a story for what we want this player to, how we want this player to act, but we need to sort of make it a bit more tangible. So we broke it into stories around the operating model, stories around the organizational work, and stories about the financial model. Yeah. And this worked, and what we had to begin with, what we had at this time now, is that we had 5 work streams with like 8 people in each. We offered our colleagues a more structured way of working with the setup of exercises and working in the different work streams. And we set ourselves up in a demo schedule, sharing knowledge with each other. And also a bit more of not hiding, like I think we kind of did before, but really exposing this is our process and this is how we work. So we were able to engage more people, use a more structured process, and also really connect to the ongoing transformation in an organization, which really is a hard thing, because these things with the future, it's just really so vague. How do we get it down to everybody's daily work? So just to sort of wrap it up, is that we have been doing this for 2 years, and I think that we started out with a really strong architectural corner of the world. We moved into purpose, we moved into more of a tangible thing around customer experiences and user experience. And now we're really looking at how can we say that this is an alternative way of working, and it is as viable as the other ones. So what we're doing now is we're trying to figure out how can we make more people understand what this is and what this way of working will give, and also start to sort of exploring a future where we have enterprise designers working really embedded with the rest of the tools in our organization, which is super exciting. So that was a really fast wrap-up over the last 2 years. We're still learning, but looking at this, I think we've come a long way.